And we are live.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome back to the Area Nerdy 1. As promised from last week, we are going to be talking the CW, but in the time from that last episode, a lot of stuff came down. Not just about the CW, but a few other things. So we're going to have quite a busy episode, aren't we?
Yeah, why don't we start by, first of all, introducing ourselves for anyone who hasn't been here before.
They haven't been here before?
Yeah.
The new people.
Yeah,
the brand new people we're gonna introduce ourselves.
Exactly.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'm Jarrett.
I'm Jimmy.
And this is Area Nerdy 1, and this is the Area Nerdy 1 compound located right outside of Area 51.
Normally, we have a third guy here, but again, he can't make it this week.
Yes.
Don't worry, we're shaming him mercilessly for it.
Of course. What we're planning on doing is actually through the local town, we're going to be stripping him almost nude and then ringing bells and throwing things at him while chanting shame, as you're wont to do.
We're going to talk about Game of Thrones later, too.
Yes, we are. A big shame.
So, Jared, do the sponsor, do the money, Jared, do the money thing.
The money thing. Well, first of all, one thing that isn't a shame is a Big Nerd Coffee Company, the best local coffee company that we've ever had.
That's right.
Honestly. I mean,
and I'm a coffee snob.
We try to be. We're beverage aficionados.
Beverage aficionados.
Beverage aficionados. One of the things I really don't like is that corporate coffee tends to be just really acidic and really I think it's watered down.
Yeah.
You know, it just doesn't taste like coffee. Big Nerd Coffee Company has high quality beans that you get to pick yourself, and they'll grind it right in store.
Not like pick from the field, but like
no,
in the
pick
store,
from the field, but pick from they have quality beans all around, and I can't gush about their food enough. And then with the great staff that they have, if I could, I'd go every single week.
All right. Well, you know what? You're in luck. You can. So they are on Facebook at Big Nerd Coffee Company. So they are working on a website. We will let you know as soon as that's up. But if you need to do orders or ask any questions, Facebook is a way to get a hold of them. So that's Big Nerd Coffee Company.
Big Nerd Coffee Company, and their website is still coming soon. Websites are difficult to come by these days, just because all the professionals are tied up with maintaining other people's websites because of the high traffic due to the plague. But Big Nerd Coffee Companies will be coming soon, and head in there and grab a muffin and a great cup of joe.
That's right. Okay, so, Jarrett, why don't you take us into the very first story you got?
The big story that we wanted to talk about is the CW, because apparently, according to the Hollywood Reporter, that this programming station, the CW Studios, owned by Warner Brothers, who's the parent company, hasn't actually been profitable since 2006.
Yeah, so there's a little. At first it's like, whoa, how does that happen? But there's apparently a lot to unpack there.
There is a lot to unpack there. So first and foremost, we actually don't know a lot about the finances of these companies. They're kept very hush-hush for a lot of reasons. Jimmy kind of talked about that last week, is some companies, even especially movie industries, once a film or series is released, because of marketing, they don't actually make a profit. So technically on their taxes, they don't have to pay that. One of the greatest examples of this is actually Peter Jackson had to sue Warner Brothers, the people who made the companies that produced
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
He had to sue them to get his paycheck because they weren't going to pay, because a lot of these directors and actors are based on the profits that are made from the movie. They get a certain percentage. So technically it doesn't make a profit, they don't get paid.
Yeah. Also, there was this one time, this guy Leo, who was a tax accountant, met this sleazy play producer, and they produced a play just to flop. It was called Springtime for Hitler,
it
was it was in the news. It was all over
really
the news.
Good.
Yeah,
it was amazing actually.
Yeah. So that's that's the plot of The Producers, basically.
Yeah.
But
I like to point out that the plot of in the plot of The Producers, there's a whole city full of New Yorkers that are going, wow, that Hitler play was pretty good.
That would not have tracked.
That would not have tracked very well. But for the CW, we're not really sure about this tax thing, because it does actually seem like they've been taking losses.
Right. So like we're not tax accountants, I'm sure, to
No.
actually figure out like why they're doing this or how this works. You'd have to parse through all kinds of information that we just don't have access to. But we're just gonna take a look
Yes.
at like what we can glean from the news and reports, and like just kind of from an outsider's perspective, see if we can dissect this a little bit.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting the way the CW works, because obviously in our era of streaming, the CW was still one of the standard TV show.
Yeah,
broadcasters.
it's like ABC, NBC, CW.
Yes,
CW is almost entirely entertainment. It doesn't do like news networks or anything.
yes, exactly. Except the WNBA is actually on the CW.
Oh,
So something you guys didn't know. Yes, it's on the CW, which is probably why their marketing is so atrocious, because you never know when a WNBA game is on, and it's on.
yeah,
CW.
I can not to get too juvenilely punny here, but I think that's something they would really drop the ball on. But
What way to bounce back on that one?
anyway,
Anyway, so the CW was actually very popular for a fairly long time.
Yeah.
Shows like Supernatural, the beginning of the Flash, the start of the Arrowverse. However, it was pretty well known, even though people did genuinely like those shows. It was pretty like well known that the CW shows were kind of like stupid fun.
yeah, it was low quality stuff. One thing I've noticed about Supernatural. So I'm not a Supernatural fan, but like
You're not a super.
I'm not a soupy, but like a lot of these shows, every once in a while, I will, check in on it just to see where the state of the game is. And Supernatural was like a lot of talk, not a lot of action, and like all of their monsters were just people.
Monsters of the Week too, right?
The Monsters of the Week was just like a person,
Just
like,
a dude.
like with like maybe some like makeup or prosthetics and stuff. And I was like, why is that? And it's like, okay, they were really popular, but they just never had the budget to do the things that they wanted to, so they had to make do.
Exactly, and then the Arrow, the start of the Arrowverse is where they took the Green Arrow and kind of mixed him in with Batman, and then they started the Arrowverse, which kind of had
Which is like low budget Justice League.
low budget Justice League. Hero has like their team, and they're doing sign stuff and taking on their bad guys, and drama ensues, and pretty much it becomes formulaic. One of the big issues with the CW shows, especially the Arrowverse, is their 24 episode format.
So that's a lot.
That is a lot.
Especially in today's day and age.
Exactly. So just for retrospect, Game of Thrones only had about 10 episodes for 8 seasons. That's an average of about 80 episodes.
Yeah.
Going for about an hour, that's 800 hours. However, the Arrowverse has a runtime of about 22 minutes with 24 episodes. That's a lot of attention you have to hold, and a lot of plots you have to do, and it gets repetitive very quickly. So the CW is very odd. If around 2006 to 2007, they're averaging about 2.5 million people watching per show, which is, again, don't quote me on that, because I'm not really good at the whole TV stuff.
And it's a little hard to dig up those kinds of numbers, but needless to say, there were nothing to sneeze at views.
There were nothing to sneeze at. For just for retrospect, The Big Bang Theory averaged in its first season about 8 million person per episode watching it, and at about towards the end, it averaged about 19 million.
Each. Okay, so
And that wasn't even a good show.
we're gonna 19 million is like exceptionally high.
Exceptionally high for a TV show back then. So, but then around 2008 to 2016, they were averaging about 2 million. So a bit of a fall off. This is where the Flash and the Arrowverse really started to pick up, and then you started seeing shows kind of pop up here and there that were Supernatural kind of petered out, and they had to fill in the roster. In 2017. Riverdale.
Okay, we got a graphic for this one.
We got a graphic for that one. And after Riverdale aired, the viewership dipped down tremendously. Not to the point where it was like, they were going down to almost zero, but as of last year, they were averaging about 700,000 person per view.
So they didn't even break a million.
They didn't even break really a million. So I have a lot of issues with Riverdale in general. I want to get. We could have a whole week dedicated to Riverdale.
Give us the Cliff's Notes version, because we've talked about this before.
Essentially, it's a very stylish, very dark version of
Archie
Bunker comics.
Not Archie Bunker. That's freaking Happy Day. No,
that's Happy. No, it's Archie Bunker.
No, this is Archie. I don't know his last name. It's Archie Comics.
Yeah, Archie Comics, basically. And the writer director of this, Roberto Aguirre, basically this is just a fan fiction that he wanted to put up.
Yeah.
And it costs millions and millions of dollars, and basically CW wrote him, told him he could do whatever.
So it seemed like a lot of these shows, okay, maybe it doesn't have massive appeal, but the fan following is very, very...
very dedicated,
Yeah.
But that is a very niche audience because their target audience for Riverdale is actually 13 to 18-year-old girls.
Yeah.
So that's a very small audience, and it's very mature content, so not every parent is going to let them watch that. But for me, I personally think, in my own twisted mind, is in 2017 when Riverdale aired, that's when the CW got turned into a joke. From like just a slock stuff that you could watch and, watch with your family to kind of just the joke show network,
Yeah. Do you know when I think the CW got turned into a joke?
When?
When the Flash had a fucking lightsaber fight.
Oh, yeah.
This was at I believe it was a recent finale. So these three characters are all speedsters. They can all run at super speeds and have fights in that situation. They decided to go with a lightsaber duel between them all. It would, even for CW, it's bad.
That's bad. And also, The Flash was very popular when it came out, but it just had a massive dip in quality. And I think that's just due to they've just done everything.
Yeah, it ran into, the show that runs over long, and like you said, it became formulaic. People had seen this type of stuff over and over again every single episode.
Yeah. So the CW is up for grabs. So where do I think the profitability went? I personally think it went to licensing because in order to make the Archie comics, they're actually paid Roberto Aguirre, his standard fees for directing, producing, what have you. But also they have to pay him licensing fees because he owns the rights to Archie, like the whole comics, everything. Anything Archie that is ever produced or written has to go through him.
Is it the whole Archie name or just the filming rights?
The whole thing.
Really?
The whole shebang. The filming rights, the Archie comic, like the comic in general. Everything about Archie, he owns.
The chief creative officer of Archie Comics. Okay, so
Yeah.
he's
it.
He's at the helm there.
Yeah.
Okay.
We could have we're definitely gonna have a Riverdale episode. We're gonna go into it. It's just a lot.
I've never seen a second of Riverdale in my life. I don't intend to.
I've watched a few episodes. It's nuts. It's amazing how weird it is. But anyway, so essentially the CW is licensing this. They're licensing all the Warner Brothers properties. Even though they are the parent company, they do have to license the characters, the names, everything.
Yeah.
From Warner Brothers. So they're running into the same issues. But also, interesting enough, they're actually paying Netflix.
So why are they paying Netflix for?
To air their episodes because their episodes are not all finished because the seasons are continuing. So when they have old episodes, they actually pay Netflix to put it on.
Riddle me this. Does not Netflix usually pay the people to use their episodes and not vice versa?
Usually. But however, since they are still a traditional network, it's a way to get people to go and watch other CW shows because once they catch up to The Flash, the new episodes will come out. They'll need to go to the CW itself. It's a bit of a marketing program, and it worked. It didn't work great before the pandemic because they didn't have enough actual good content to bring people and keep them into the CW.
Right.
But now with the pandemic, people are just streaming stuff, and traditional television has gone by the wayside a lot.
Yeah. It's plus with the advent of internet streaming and stuff,
The newfangled internet.
Yeah, definitely locally. This was probably like 6 years ago, trying to figure out how to get a more powerful internet signal. The scuttlebutt going around was that the local stations were starting to scale down the signal that they were outputting.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's still going on, but they were starting to slowly scale down the range of the signals that local stations were putting out.
Just so you know, we didn't grow up with the internet or cable, so we grew up with the CW, watching King of Queens, and
a lot of PBS kids.
A lot of PBS kids, but the CW was what we watched during like dinner time and stuff, like watching reruns of Friends on there. It wasn't Friends. There was what other shows were on the CW that we would watch?
They would cycle shows out all the time.
Yeah.
They had things like How I Met Your Mother there on there at some point.
Yeah.
So the CW is it became kind of a catch-all, kind of like a TBS, honestly.
Yeah. So it was very interesting. It would have also like Saturday cartoons and movies sometimes too. So the CW has a lot of content, but it's not good. Especially doesn't involve with its current audience.
Yeah, it was. It's basically an entire channel of leave it on, I'm holding the laundry type stuff.
Exactly. So where I think that seriously changed for them is again with the Archie show, because it went from this very family friendly Flash kind of stuff to basic underage kids
getting into stuff,
which is, and then of course again that led into Sabrina, the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which had a very good concept, but was very weird.
Yeah,
not very good.
Yeah, it was wrought with a bit of controversy there.
Yeah.
So,
which is also, I want to bring that up. The CW keeps with these Archie comic stuff and everything else, keep running into controversy, and I think that just hurts their image in general.
Yeah, you kind of don't want that kind of publicity when you're trying to get people to watch it. So, all right, so we've established the CW. For reasons mostly unknown, they have not been profitable in about 12, 14 years.
Right.
And what do you think is going to happen to them in the future?
I think personally, it's Warner Brothers and another company. I forget what company it is that own it. They own the CW jointly.
Right.
So they're going to be selling it, and it was estimated to be the CW in total with all of its assets and remaining studios to be about $1 billion, which $1 billion with a B sounds like a lot, but honestly, that's not, as far as media companies are concerned and tech companies, that's not a lot. That's actually quite cheap.
Okay.
Comparatively, that's pretty bad.
It's a good deal for anyone who wants to snap that up.
Exactly.
Sell a few Bitcoins, snap that one up.
Yeah, a couple Dogecoins will be ready, but you're gonna buy CW. It's kind of like Randy when he bought the Blockbuster chain.
Like nobody's been to CW since 1999.
Yes, exactly. So what is probably going to happen is all their assets are going to be just torn apart and
liquidated.
The Flash will probably get snapped up by Netflix, and a few other shows will go elsewhere, probably to Paramount or
maybe Hulu.
Hulu, maybe. Hulu's got enough stuff going on, and they kind of have enough shows on their own, and they're kind of going for a little bit more avant-garde. I'm probably going to say Amazon's probably going to snap them up, or just Netflix in general is going to just try to get it on the cheap. But however, CW is probably just going to be absolutely shit canned from here on. But we're not going to see it anymore.
Well, it makes a bit of sense because CW came out of the Warner Brothers channel. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
They had an entire channel just Warner Brothers. You had things like when we were watching it was Kids WB. That was all we were interested in. They had like Jackie Chan Adventures on there.
Oh,
that was the first
Shaolin Showdown.
That was the first time I experienced Yu-Gi-Oh watching that channel. So they always have a special place in my heart. But after about 10, 15 years, that also went belly up, and they ended up going completely off the air and kind of becoming the CW. So and that leads us to today.
Yeah, and it's kind of sad to see them go, but honestly, at this point, their content was not what it really should have been. It wasn't. I don't think it was good. I don't think it was quality, and it definitely wasn't worth the IPs that they bought.
Right.
Because Roberto Aguirre is making a lot of money, but as soon as the CW goes under, nobody wants to make his stuff. Like he went to the CW because they gave him license to do whatever he wanted. That was his thing, and no one else is gonna let him do it.
Do you think that now he's had some success with it, anyone will want to work with him?
No.
Just
Just
nah,
no.
nah.
No. Well, Sabrina the Teenage Witch was a notorious flop.
You mean the Chilling Adventures?
Whatever.
Yeah, because Sabrina the Teenage Witch with Melissa Joan Hart was perfection in action.
Perfection. It's no offense to anybody that likes Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, but the third season was, even by fan standards, horrific, and it just didn't age well at all either. So, and it was all due to his creative influences, and Riverdale is just hanging on by a thread. It's the only thing that people are really watching besides The Flash, and people are not really happy with The Flash in general.
Lightsaber fight,
and everything else.
and gestures broadly.
Gestures broadly everywhere.
All right. So what else we got though?
What else we got? We got the biggest news.
This is a big business
Yes.
episode. Big business.
The big business. The biggest.
Stocks and bonds and trading.
Stocks and upselling and coffees for closers.
And intern, get me my Danish.
Exactly. So what we have here is Microsoft, who
the computers you
the
use.
computer, not Steve Jobs, the other guy, the other nerdy weird guy with glasses.
Bill Fences?
No, Bill Doors.
Bill Drawbridges.
I think it's Bill Locks and Chains around a perimeter.
It's Bill Gates.
It's Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Bill Gates' company, Microsoft, bought as you know, bought Bethesda, the creators of Skyrim, Fallout.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that. Bought that company a little while ago, giving them quite a chunk of the gaming industry. But recently, they just bought Activision Blizzard, so that gives them Call of Duty. That gives them World of Warcraft, Overwatch, Diablo.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff. So basically, Microsoft just cornered. No, Microsoft is the gaming market right now. It is. Though Nintendo and a few other companies are rolling around. This is a monopoly in the gaming industry.
So not to get too cynical about it, but generally when this kind of stuff happens, Congress steps in and gives like at least a half-hearted effort to like say, hey, don't do that. Okay, fine, whatever. We can't stop you.
Yeah.
But have they tried anything at this point, or are they just letting it happen?
There has been rumbles in the past because even before this, Microsoft was showing signs of monopolistic tendencies within the tech industry. However, the gaming industry is notorious for not being able to be curtailed.
Right.
It's because of creative freedom, essentially, and a couple of other really obscure rules. But this is different. There's nothing to compete with them at this point. There's absolutely nothing. Another Pokemon game is gonna?
There's unless an indie game catches on like fucking Fortnite did or something like that. Like you say, there's no companies that have the resources that could possibly face some Microsoft that owns the top 3 freaking video game producers. Yeah. And they've got, not only do they have that, they are vertically integrated because they've got the software and they also sell the hardware that they sell to everybody.
That is another issue that's going to be coming up because the fear is by many gamers is that it's going to be that all their games are now going to be behind a subscription service. So instead of just paying for a game, you get the subscription service, which is fine, I guess, but that's not really how Microsoft works. Have you ever tried playing Microsoft's games or Activision games?
I haven't.
Okay. So first of all, it's paywalls, constant paywalls behind stuff.
Yeah. What's the gameplay like? It's a paywall.
It's a paywall, and that's what Activision has already been. Call of Duty is notorious for pay to win mechanics. Just absolute money dumps for paywalls and other stuff.
Do they do loot boxes anymore?
They still do loot boxes, which is technically a form of gambling. Don't change my mind on that. It won't. However, this is very interesting. But Activision Blizzard have been in the news recently for their own controversies. This is not exactly just them cornering the market. They just took on some of the most toxic properties in gaming industries.
Yeah, Blizzard's had all kinds of news stories come out about their toxic environments.
Not to mention the Free Hong Kong movement in the Overwatch community that got a ton of people banned just for doing that. The Blizzard executives basically just shitting on all of the WoW fans by putting out really terrible games that weren't finished, completely backstabbing all of them. And basically Fallout 76, but on a more massive scale. And then,
Well, don't get us started on Fallout
don't
76.
get me started on Fallout 76.
Yeah, they acquired. On one hand, they are cornering the market. On the other hand, they acquired Bethesda and Blizzard. So
Yes.
unless they have a fairy godmother that they're acquiring too, they're not going to be able to work out all those kinks overnight.
Exactly. And plus, Activision's one thing that they're only known about is putting out the same game every single year, like Madden.
Yeah,
Exactly.
or a FIFA,
Or FIFA. Exactly.
or Call of Duty.
Call of Duty. Gross. And Bethesda's known for buggy games every time upon release.
You know how like they say the bug is a feature.
Yeah.
In Bethesda, the bug is a feature, but not in a good way.
And you paid for it. It's a DLC.
Yeah, you paid for it to have problems.
Exactly. So they have cornered the market, but they cornered the market with some of the worst gaming industry giants you could have asked for. We'll see how it goes. We are anticipating, of course, the release of Elder Scrolls 6, the long anticipated sequel to Skyrim. If that game isn't anything but perfect, I think that will show that Microsoft can't handle this level of control.
Right. Yeah, Skyrim was, to my knowledge, the last non-super buggy game that Bethesda put out.
And even though it wasn't super buggy, it was still buggy.
Yeah, there was maybe one or two flying mammoths, but the rest of their games since then have just been all flying mammoths.
Exactly. And that's why they kept releasing it like 6 to 7 times with the
Right.
legendary editions, because that's the only game that could ever get right. So another issue with Bethesda is that they've also used the same software since the mid 2000s for their games, which means it was out of date 10 years ago, but they've still been using it. We'll see if Microsoft is actually even going to upgrade that software and actually put out a good game. We'll see. If they don't, we're pretty much screwed when it comes to games that are coming out of Microsoft.
Right. So, yeah. So this spells
something.
like it's hard to tell because, okay, it's we're not usually pretty political on this thing, but conglomerates and monopolies are generally pretty bad for the market and the little guy. Like indie games are already struggling, and something like this is just going to make it harder and harder for them to get a foothold or come up with something or have any slight share of the market.
Especially when it comes to systems, because now Microsoft owns more than half of the market, and they put out Xbox.
Right.
So
yeah.
how are people going to play these indie games?
Yeah, that's what the term vertically integrated means. They own the means of production and the means of distribution, like all the way down. They own everything.
And the means of entertainment.
Yeah.
So we don't try to be political, but this is kind of a very interesting one. Please let us know what you think about this, because we're definitely going to have to talk about this later on. We could have a whole episode dedicated to just this topic.
Right.
But of course, we have a lot of other things to do today. But Microsoft is now the giant in the gaming industry.
Yeah. Not just a giant, the giant.
The giant. But speaking of new games, Pokemon Legends of Arceus. Okay. So this is the new Pokemon game that that is coming out. So Sword and Shield came out not too long ago, a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
It was fairly well reviewed. People did have some complaints about the gameplay being pretty much the same, it being very, very easy.
Well, that's Pokemon.
Yeah, it's Pokemon. There's no leveling system for the games. But the new Legend of Arceus, we're having some leaks, and they released some new designs for new Pokemon. One of the things that they're going to do, instead of brand new starters, they're actually having some old starters.
Let's take a look.
So
this is the evolved version. So I get first of all, it doesn't seem like they went with the most popular starters. It seems more like they kind of just drew the starters from a hat.
Well, I mean, okay, so going from my left to right, the starter was Oshawott going into Samurott, which is the blue one, and Cyndaquil going into Typhlosion in the middle, and Rowlet going into Noctowl at the very end. Now, Jimmy's right. Samurott is one of the least favorite water starters of any generation. And Typhlosion is kind of looked at very nostalgically, and they like it. A lot of people like it, some people don't. And Noctowl and Rowlet were very popular, though. So it's kind of a mixed bag, kind of like a less popular, medium popular, and very popular. These are the new designs.
So, okay, let's break down these designs a little bit. Okay, Samurott, looks like they turned the mustache up to 11 first of all, and gave him a dark color scheme, bent horn, a few minor details here and there. But what exactly are they going for with that one? Like,
I don't know if you guys can tell. I am like very disappointed with this.
I can't tell from the disappointed tone in your voice and the look of utter defeat on your face.
It's kind of like, so first of all, Pokemon obviously isn't for me. It's made for 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
You know? When I want to play Pokemon, I want to usually get like the coolest looking Pokemon. You know, that's kind of my style. So when I see new Pokemon that don't fit to that, I kind of understand why I'm not really up to it. They're supposed to be marketable. They're supposed to be cute. They're supposed to be fluffy. But you know, sometimes you get like stuff like Aggron or Tyranitar. You know, those are not cute and cuddly Pokemon.
Those are baller shot collar awesome.
Collar.
They're dinosaurs, man.
Yeah, they're freaking dinosaurs. Dino DNA.
That's right. They got the Dino DNA. So here's the thing though. So all right, I'm putting on my nostalgia goggles and I'm looking through it through the lens of a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Right. So when I was playing the games, one of the things that really excited me about the Pokemon, when you evolve them, you get to see the evolution for the first time and see how cool it is and awesome.
Yeah.
These evolutions, I would be, as a 10-year-old me, would be kind of disappointed to see, especially like Typhlosion. When I was a kid, that was one of my favorite from the Johtos. I thought it was awesome. Like, this version does not excite me at all.
Okay. What? I'm so I'm like, I look at these and I see what they were going for, but I'm so confused that they got their
generally when they design Pokemon, they follow some sort of theme or color scheme. They're all over the place with these ones.
They're one of the things I picked out almost immediately is that the colors are very dull.
Yeah,
it's a very dull color. These again. All right. So first and foremost, these are leaked Pokemon starters. So so these images are.
I gotta get a closer look, but keep going.
Yeah. So we don't. Yeah, we're actually gonna bring it up a little closer to see if we can actually see it a little bit better. So the picture's not the highest quality, and maybe the colors might change a little bit, but right now they look very dull. Going from, oh my god, from the water start. Samurott. It didn't have a good design to begin with.
Yeah.
Like, if I was going to redesign Samurott, I would kind of take it in a bit much more samurai kind of looking,
right,
esque, because all through its evolution, it is bipedal. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of just
goes quadrupedal for no reason.
Quadrupedal. It doesn't look like they upgraded it. They kind of like splashed a new color theme on it and kind of said it was new. Like, if this was a shiny, I would say yes.
Yeah.
This isn't.
Yeah, the first two, that's what they look like. They look like shinies, basically.
Yeah. Typhlosion. We have good memories about Typhlosion.
Yeah, Typhlosion. One of the things about Typhlosion is, like, as a creature design, it's usually like baring its teeth and like flaring its jets out. This one looks really like chilled out. It looks like
high energy. It was what old Typhlosion was.
Yeah, this looks like a kind of a slowpoke, basically Pokemon.
Yeah. So it looks. So one of the things that a lot of fans were really upset about with the new games and even Pokemon Go is that the Typhlosion sprite didn't have any fire on it.
Yeah.
It made Typhlosion. It's very much a energy focused Pokemon, like its name. It's an explosion Pokemon.
Yeah.
This Typhlosion doesn't excite me. It doesn't seem like it's an interesting design, both because it doesn't have its main and in general. It kind of just, this looks like, again, like a shiny version of Typhlosion. It doesn't look like it should be anything.
Yeah, this looks like a first draft.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on. Yeah. So Noctowl, again, like most like Pokemon generally follow a theme of some kind. Like Noctowl's original design, like you can obviously tell it was based on like Assassin's Creed or ninjas or some kind.
Yeah.
I'm not really seeing what this one is.
So I think like Sword and Shield was kind of going after a I don't know what kind of it took place in a England-esque.
Okay, so like warriors almost. Like,
Yeah, but England-esque. But their starters were Ramballoon, which was a drummer. The other one, which was
the bunny.
Yeah, a soccer bunny, which kind of understood. But then the other one was a superhero cape-wearing spy lizard.
Right, it turns into the James Bond gecko.
Yeah, but it doesn't. But those are just kind of British things. But they're not really like themed at all. Like it's not really interesting. Like it's. I mean, Ramballoon is like just a rock star, which could have been anybody.
Anything, yeah. Yeah, we got rock stars in America.
We got rock stars everywhere. There were rock stars in the USSR. Why do we need a rock? Yeah.
Yeah, go to literally any country.
Yeah.
Like Sudan has bangs.
Exactly. Also, there in the Sword and Shield, all the starters were just single elements.
Right.
Water, grass, fire, which I think is kind of bunkus anyway, and especially if all of them are like that. Samurai was just a pure water type, and Typhlosion was just a pure fire type.
Yeah.
And Noctowl was a grass ghost, which was kind of cool. I never really saw that as a starter. I don't know what this is. I think they're trying to do like a Chinese theme because I think that our Legend of Arceus does take place in a China-esque land.
Right.
So I think Samurai is supposed to be a warrior of some kind.
It looks kind of dragon-esque.
Dragon-esque. Okay.
Yeah, like you say, there's like you look at samurai, you can like okay, yeah, it looks like a samurai. You look at you look at was it Noctowl?
Noctowl.
No, Noctowl is the from Johto. Whatever this one is, you'd look at it and be like, okay, like it's an Assassin's Creed Archer Robin Hood type looking thing. These ones don't have a theme to them.
Yeah, I mean, there is a Chinese esque traveler hat. It's a straw hat that kind of goes over it.
Right.
There's like that,
but
that it doesn't really.
It's not even evocative of that.
Yeah.
Even
I guess you could say Typhlosion looks like a monk-ish, and it could be a psychic type, but that is pushing it.
It's pushing it hard.
It's pushing it hard. Simply put, I don't like these designs. I don't think they did them well. I don't even think that their types are going to be that good either. Samurai, I think, is going to be a water fighting, maybe. Typhlosion, I think, is just going to be fire type and learn psychic moves. And Noctowl is probably going to be a ground type.
You know what? My dream Pokemon team doesn't even include any starters.
Really?
Yeah. You guys have heard this before.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it again. Let's hear it again.
Our one dedicated viewer. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Started off. My walk around / starter my walk around Pokemon is a Houndoom called Baskerville. My favorite Pokemon ever, Gengar, called Mr. Hyde.
Wait, this is how you start a game? You're designing a game and you're...
No, I'm saying, okay, Jared, this is how, in IRL, in real Pokemon world, I would have it. My dream team. Followed by a Salamence called Smog. A Tyranitar called Tina. A Sock called Jean-Claude.
Jean-Claude.
And a Shiftry called Sojobo.
You suck.
You just
told me your dream and I just tried to shatter it.
It's subjective, Jared.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear yours.
So for my Pokemon game, I would have a easy, medium, and hard level. So if you chose easy, you get your you start out each region with your starter. You pick your starter, blah blah blah. Medium is that you go second. Mm-hmm. Your rival picks first.
Okay.
And then you have to pick. And then hard mode is that there are 3 rivals. They get the starters ahead of you, and you get a randomized 2-stage evolution Pokemon.
And does it try to kill you the entire first episode?
Nope. But every until you actually build friendship with a Pokemon, it won't obey you.
That was a mechanic in at least the Johto level, like the crystal. Like
Yeah.
if you didn't have a certain level or a certain badge, like the Pokemon that you had wouldn't follow your instructions.
Yeah.
You would tell it to attack one thing, it would do another.
Well, actually, that's in every single game.
Really?
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's a level.
I guess I'm just so good.
Well, here's the thing, because it's like, you go to up to like level 50, or like you start out up to level 15, Pokemon will not obey you.
Right.
But you beat most of the gyms before that. So even though like the range of the Pokemon that you would catch and train up that would not obey you, you'd already be like kind of there.
Okay.
So like it was never really like a big deal unless you like traded them.
Okay.
That was the mechanic. Like I'm saying, like as soon as you catch a Pokemon, it will not obey you in battle until you have a certain level of friendship.
Okay. I always wondered what the friendship thing was, because your friendship does increase. Yeah.
Yeah, you can evolve some Pokemon based on that, and friendship. There are some attacks that are based on friendship, but that's about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to these starters. I'm not excited by them. I feel like the design should be absolutely perfect, and really catch the fans and everybody else like off guard. Like, oh my god, these are so good! I want to evolve them. I want to fight with them.
Yeah.
Everything.
That's what 10-year-old Jimmy would have said.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I was so stoked when I evolved my Skeptile for the first time. Yeah.
Like, I don't mean to be. I'm not even looking through nostalgia glasses. The first 3 generations were solid designs.
Yeah.
The first generation, whatever you say, those Pokemon were good designs.
Yeah.
Generation 2, first of all, Chikorita, best design starter. Love it. It's cute. It's a potato with legs, and it's got a leaf. Love it. Totodile, clutch. Cyndaquil, clutch. Gen 3, knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Absolutely knocked it.
And then up to that point, Pokemon were a lot more streamlined in the design. I want to say they were creative. They were interesting to look at. They were pleasing to the eye. You get excited about catching them.
Yeah.
But they weren't outlandish. And then the next generation, they started to like add more. Their designs got really busy. I want to say.
Actually, I would say the opposite. I would say like the first 3 generations, a lot of the designs were actually a lot more busy and actually a lot more creative. And then as the generations went on, they got a little bit more simplistic, a lot more cute, a lot more marketable.
Right.
Final words on this. I don't think Legend of Arceus is going to be good in general, because there were a lot of flaws and oversimplicity in Sword and Shield. And I was already really pissed off with the designs and the stat and like everything with those starters. And I think these ones are just going to be worse.
Right.
Although the alternate designs and like the Hershun region,
Yeah.
forms for Growlithe, the alternate evolution for Scyther in that region, really good. So they had a lot of good designs. This just wasn't it.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't we move on? So we're in the last like 15 minutes of the show. So this is usually the part where I do like Jimmy's Dojo or multiverse matchup. I could do multiverse matchup, but also we tend to take this time to respond to TikToks, and this is how we grow our brand, people. So we want to talk about this stuff. So we want to do the Game of Thrones or the show one first.
Let's do the show one.
Okay, the show one. Okay, so this prompt comes from the user Crazy Cosmo. I'm trying to jump on this bandwagon before it gets off the rails, but
And thank you, Crazy Cosmo, for lending us your idea.
Yes,
that we're just using.
exactly. So basically, the question is like, what show needed another season to end correctly? Like, you're not satisfied with how it ended.
Mhm.
Let's get another show and get one more season to give it more time.
Okay.
So
Essentially, because we did talk about this a little earlier, Jimmy said something like the Dark Crystal.
Yeah.
However, I brought up the point that an additional season isn't really what that show would need. It would need to continue. It doesn't need an extra season. It would need to go past one season to the end.
Yeah, so that show definitely just barely was an ending. Like, it was a cliffhanger, but we know enough about the Dark Crystal. We've got the movie where we could pretty much blend in what they wanted to do, but like that one definitely needed a lot more time to. You have to explore Thra. There's so much more you could bring in. It's a visual feast for the eyes. again, not a huge following, but the fans, us included, that were watching that show were so dedicated. And I think that they were expecting it to be more of a success because they did put out a lot of merch for that.
They put out a ton of
Can
marketing.
you grab my guy up there? Yeah. I fell for that. I got my Skekmal Funko Pop, which honestly, this is the best Funko Pop I think I've ever found.
I didn't want to say anything when he got that because I didn't want to give him a lot of, inflate his ego. But that is the best Funko Pop I've ever seen in my entire life. I have seen a lot of Funko Pops, and I have never seen one that is this detailed, that busy, and that has that much personality.
Yeah. So highly recommend Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance. It
breaks your heart. I love it.
It did need another season.
It needed more.
It needed to finish the story with Dee, figure out like what's happening with the Darkening and the Gartham War. If you guys watch Dark Crystal, you probably also have to read the wiki. You'll know what I'm talking about.
And I'm just saying that if it only has one season, I'm not saying it needs another season. I'm saying it just needs to continue in general. It needs to finish out to the end. But that's splitting hairs here. But Jimmy, what is the show that you think definitely needs an extra season?
My answer, Penny Dreadful.
Okay.
So Penny Dreadful was a show that ran on Stars for, spoiler alert, 3 seasons. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the show, I highly recommend.
Very good.
So
also, Penny Dreadful, City of Angels. Please go see that.
Yeah. So what's interesting about Penny Dreadful is it ran for 3 seasons. The first 2 seasons had 10 episodes. The 3rd season, you get to the 8th episode, stuff starts happening. It seems like a finale, and then that episode ends with the end title card. So they did this completely unannounced. They did not have any news conferences. The show makers didn't let the fans know until that episode. Like, I found out that the show was ending that right then with everyone else. Now,
like, that's it?
Yeah, that was it. So Penny Dreadful is a show that combines all these dark gothic characters from the Victorian era. So like the Wolfman, Frankenstein and his creature, vampires. They are fighting. So Vanessa Ives, played by Ava Green, and her friends and family are fighting vampires and the forces of, supernatural.
And Olivia DeLuca says she totally agrees with this choice. I haven't actually seen this series.
Jarrett, you have to. So anyone who's a fan of the show will tell you that it does have some weak points, but it's atmospheric. The set dressing is immaculate. Mm-hmm. Every single actor in this show puts forward stellar performances. Mm-hmm. None of them half-ass it. They all commit so hard.
I could just see this cast right now from just the poster, and let me tell you, that is a cast and a half.
That's not even everybody.
Yeah.
So so all these people are consummate actors, and they put forward some of the most committed acts that you've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Now here's the question: why did it end like this? Mm-hmm. So the creators were basically saying that they just decided the show had run its course. They were, narratively, they just figured this is where I think it should end. And I think that they made the wise decision to end the show, leave people wanting more. Mm-hmm. So there was definitely tons of loose ends they could have tied up. They could have figured the Dracula thing was kind of underwhelming. They could have definitely brought an end to Vanessa's story a little bit more satisfyingly and shown what happened to the rest of these characters. Now, the good news is that afterwards they did release a graphic novel series, 3 issues that acted as the sequel to this show. So you can find those online. But yeah, so this show definitely, and they end that way better than I think they could have on TV. They really up the action, up the ante.
Okay. But they also had Penny Dreadful City of Angels.
Yes. Which I don't have a poster for.
That only ran for 1 season.
Yes. For different they ended it for different reasons.
Yeah.
So
which I also love that I saw that series. I loved it, every second of it. I usually don't really go for dramas and these really intricate storytellings. But this one was really good, especially how they handled how Latin immigration happened, especially in the 30s, and the rise of fascism in the U.S. in the 30s as well. I loved it. Everything.
The Zoot Suit riots, those were a real thing.
Yeah. Just how they handled everything was amazing. And the fact that it only got 1 season is criminal. But
Yeah.
anyway,
But they didn't have. So again, there was a small dedicated following, but even that was more underwhelming than they were expecting. So
yeah.
cut it. All right. So yeah, definitely Penny Dreadful. Okay, so next one I've got going. I've got a lot of these.
You do actually.
I'm gonna try to put all these up on TikTok, but I do have a lot of these. Let me just make a note here.
You're really making a note.
Yep. So the next one I've got is Marco Polo. So Marco Polo was a Netflix show. It was one of the first original series that they made.
It was the second, I believe, after the House of Cards, but however, it was the most expensive.
Exactly. So Marco Polo is a highly fictionalized account of Marco Polo and his time in Kublai Khan's court. Now, this show had amazing set dressing, amazing production quality. There were, again, some holes. There was a few weak acting performances, not by Benedict Wong, who played Kublai Khan.
Yeah.
But this had historical battles. It had, court intrigue, kung fu kickassery. Like, we got a Templar versus Kung Fu monk scene. Like, what more could you want?
I mean,
But-
nothing.
Exactly.
That's it.
But
They covered the bases.
and the second season had 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it
Which
was
is nigh impossible.
yeah, it had just found its footing. So, like I said, why did it end? Money.
It's
So-
expensive.
So it was
It was so expensive.
it was so expensive. Netflix took a bath to the tune of $40 million on this show. So they just $40 million gone. Their business model doesn't really support high quality, high end productions like this.
Yeah.
A lesson that they would not learn not once but twice. And so even
Yeah.
though this show, had dedicating following me, they decided to get rid of it because they just could not keep making a show this expensive.
No.
I wish that it would come back in some form or some way because it had great casting, great performances, kung fu kickassery, strong women who kick ass. All of it. It checks all the boxes. For
It's
me.
all the boxes. If you have a list,
It's my list: historical drama, kung fu.
that's it.
All right, so that's all I've got for that one. Jarrett, you got anything else?
I do, but it goes right into the thing we're going to talk about next.
Okay, what is it?
The one show that I think could have really benefited from another season is Game of Thrones.
Aha. Yep.
Game of Thrones. So if all Game of Thrones fans all know how season 8 ended.
Yeah.
Horribly. So originally they were actually going to be doing another 2 seasons. It ended properly, but they opted out. It was kind of like one of those things where all the actors had been in it for so long, they were ready to go on to other stuff. The creators were ready to move on, so they just kind of try to wrap things up, but with old newspaper. And they ran out of tape halfway, and they just kicked the box down and threw it under the tree and missed the tree, and it landed outside.
Yep, that's about right.
So I think that could have used another whole season. Do a whole season of the Long Night, just that you could have done.
Right.
Which would have been interesting. All of Westeros, all the world in darkness and snow is falling in vast Dothrak, and just bring basically all the armies and people of Westeros to the north to fight, and just leaving it in ruin, and fighting off armies and armies of the dead. You could have done it, and then the last season would be Daenerys Targaryen absolutely losing her shit.
Yeah.
Being touched, by the dragon's fire or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But the season was pushed through. It was their biggest. They had dip in quality and dip in viewership, but it was still the most expensive TV show ever produced, and people were still coming out in droves. And the marketing and the merchandising just on that show was enormous. You could have made so much money off of that.
Right.
But they were ready to call it quits. So I'm gonna say another season of that would have been good. It's a nice little middle ground. Instead of the 2 seasons that they were gonna do, just do the 1.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. An extra season of Game of Thrones, make it 9 seasons, and I think it would. I think it would have benefited, and it would have ended so horribly. Oh my god.
All right. So let's see here. the next question. Okay, so actually, I gotta add something in for Marco Polo because I'm gonna go back and edit this.
Yes.
Let's see here, and yeah, I'm doing all this. So at Marco Polo, the reason it shouldn't have ended is it ended on a cliffhanger, and there were a lot of loose ends to tie up. First, the kingdom's in turmoil. Kublai Khan is missing. They definitely could have explored this world and expanded their horizons a lot more, and just added more kung fu fight scenes.
Yeah.
And scene. Did you have something to say?
No.
Okay.
I actually haven't seen Marco Polo.
Okay. Anyway, so all right. So
which is really sad because it's only 2 episodes.
Yeah, 2 seasons.
Whatever.
So this is the last. This is the last question we're going to ask for tonight. So here's the prompt. So it's from
the TikToker.
From the TikToker, Black PNW Lady. I don't know what that means, but Black PNW Lady. So she asks, "What was the moment in Game of Thrones you realized the show was going off the rails?"
Yes.
Share it.
For me, okay, so there's a lot of answers to this because it was some even in the first seasons that are pretty much perfect, there are some dips in quality and some signs of trouble that you could see. Even the Red Wedding, it's utter brutality. It's honestly it's worse in the show than it is in the book. At least for me, I thought it was worse. I think maybe that could be for me. Maybe that could be one.
It's a good it's a good thing because if you're not able to visualize that brutality, that says good things about you. Versus on the show, you're actually watching it happen.
Exactly. It's so there's a couple of places. Obviously in season 5 there's a lot of lulls. There's a lot of this and that, and there a lot of people point to the character how they handled the character of Jaime Lannister in the series as kind of a point of dip of quality. However, my personal opinion is when Jon Snow is crowned king in the North at the end of season 6.
Why is that?
So essentially, from my point of view, is that Jon Snow at this point first of all, this entire series is based around the Lords of the North making somebody a king. And everyone keeps saying how the Northern Lords are very different from other lords. They're very loyal, they're very strong, they're very stubborn, and we don't really see them at all.
Yeah.
And then suddenly this bastard that they don't know, that all they know is that he abandoned the Night's Watch, and he's
a zombie.
And is a zombie, and he brought wildlings into the North. They wouldn't make him king instantaneously. I don't have a problem with him being king in the North. I have a problem with when he became king in the North.
Okay.
So that's when I kind of knew. They kind of were like, oh, well, this is it. This is how he does it. What really should have happened, in my personal opinion, is after the long night, Jon Snow leads everyone into battle and shows himself to be a uniter. He brings the Northern Lords together with the wildlings, show them that they can work together. He helps defeat the Night King. And a lot of these Westerosi lords and ladies and knights are there in Winterfell afterwards, and then they proclaim him King of the North.
Right.
And that builds a great tension because it's in front of Daenerys. The Northern Lords and the wildlings and the Knights of the Vale, they don't really know what they're doing and what the situation is. They're just doing what they feel like is doing. They're not waiting for somebody to come and become king because they're, they're born into it. They're choosing somebody that they have seen do stuff, not after the fact, after the Battle of the Bastards. You've seen him rule and be a good leader all through this.
Right. It's a build-up.
So when he starts being like, I don't want to be king kind of thing to Daenerys, it makes a little more sense that this has happened to him in front of her kind of very recently.
Right.
One other thing is, I would say in season 6, instead of him becoming king, he chooses his own name. Instead of being a Snow, he doesn't become a Stark, he doesn't become anything. He chooses his own last name, like Ice or Longclaw or something like that. That's what I think would have happened.
Right.
It would have made a little more sense to me. And as a character, kind of like a character arc, and the placement in the show, I think it makes a little more sense.
Yeah. All right. My turn?
Yeah, that's when I thought.
Okay, yeah. Fair. So, okay, here's where I think it went off the rails. Started to go off the rails, okay?
Mm-hmm.
After Dany destroys the ships at Slaver's Bay and fast travels to Westeros, like at the very end of, I believe it was the 7th season.
That was season 6.
Season 6. Okay.
That was season 6.
Okay. When she fast travels to Westeros, that's when. And so the reason is there's a thing called the Myronese knot. That's something that fans have dubbed the fact that in the books, Dany is in Meereen, and there's no real way to get her to Westeros where it makes sense.
Right.
In the show, they sort of glossed over that. They're like, okay, she's on the ships, she's got the horses, and they're in Westeros now.
Mm-hmm.
And she leaves everything in Slaver's Bay behind, where, say what you will about George R.R. Martin, he's paying extreme detail to these plot lines where he's like, okay, she wouldn't just pack up and leave. She's not leaving this plot line, these intricacies, which has caused him a bit of a issue, which is why he's not finishing the books.
Right.
Whereas
his commitment to realism has put him in the Myronese knot.
Exactly. So versus in the show, they basically wrapped it up in 5 minutes at the end of the episode and said, okay, she's going to Westeros now, and she's in Westeros. Mm. This opinion is entirely in hindsight. At the time, I was on board, but thinking about it, it's like, okay, that's where they start. In hindsight, that's where they kind of started to allow things to time skip and go by and let things slide. They were more. It seemed like they were more willing to shoehorn in plot lines and just whitewash over things just to make it work.
I'm gonna disagree a little bit.
Okay.
Finish your thought and then I'll tell you.
I did.
Okay. So there's a bit of a difference because she doesn't just, the episode doesn't end and she just is in Westeros. The season ends.
Yeah.
And then it picks up. So when it originally started up, in the viewer's mind, it was a long time. So in a streaming service mentality, when you're watching it, it doesn't really make sense episodically because when Game of Thrones ended, we weren't really, the HBO streaming service really wasn't a real thing still, and they were still releasing it. So they didn't really cut it to be a really long time. As far as we were concerned, she was on the ships going to Westeros, and then a year passed.
Right.
Like a year for us passed, and then she was in Westeros.
Right.
So so when I was watching it, that made sense to me because, like you just said, it made sense to you because she was on the boats. It took a year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last time we saw Daenerys, she was on a boat, and now she's in Westeros.
So there's at least some continuity there.
There is some continuity, but as far as the show was concerned, and in the universe, it didn't take that long.
Right.
Which is.
Yeah, that doesn't quite make sense. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So
also, a controversial opinion.
Yeah.
The hold the door scene.
Really?
So yes, it was huge and emotional, and it had the effect on me, but
it doesn't make sense.
It couldn't. Yeah, the whole time I was like, why is there a door there? Because this is like Iron Age, Stone Age people living in this area.
Yeah.
So it's like, why is there a door with hinges there in the north?
And also the fact that people beyond the wall can just walk around with White Walker infested territory, just walk directly to the wall and be fine.
Yeah. So
anywhere.
So that was one of the points where again, I was on board entirely while I was watching it, but a while later in hindsight, I'm like that. It seemed like they really shoehorned that plot point in to make the Hodor make sense as a character.
Yeah, Hodor is just this thing he says. That's all you need to say. But the thing is, too, is the Myronese knot applies to Bran because in the books and the show, there's no feasible way to get him to the wall and beyond the wall from where he is.
Right.
So he's just kind of stuck. He can't do that. He can't. He's going to have to fight the White Walkers from beyond the wall and die in obscurity. That's how the books have to end if the books ever get written.
If they ever get, if the Myronese and north of the wall knots ever get untangled.
Well, at this point in time in George R. R. Martin's story, spoilers, all of the characters are Myronese knots.
He has written them into so many corners.
Yeah, but he can't just start killing them off because there are so many plot lines we have to see through. There's the Dornish plot line. There's what's going on in the Riverlands. There's the Brotherhood without banners. There's everything going on in King's Landing. There's the North. There's Stannis. There's Jon Snow. He's dead. Bran and everything else. And then, of course, the Golden Company landed in the Stormlands.
And the guy brought the freaking stone sickness with him.
The stone sickness with him. Also, Euron Greyjoy is being an asshole.
And also Victorian Greyjoy.
And Victorian Greyjoy.
Oh, God, okay, we could go on.
Yeah, we could go. Did you know actually in the War of the Five Kings after his battle at the Whispering Woods? No, at the Battle of the Camp. Robb Stark got 8,000 free riders from the Lannister army, and then George R. R. Martin just forgot about them and just never wrote them in again.
Yes. That makes me wonder, does that happen a lot and we just don't notice it? Like authors just forget about something they wrote?
Yeah. So like 8,000 dudes just are there and then they're gone.
Yeah.
Which is in Westeros, 8,000 is a pretty huge number.
That's like
massive.
That's 50 towns, yeah.
That's actually 8,000 men are more than Stannis is marching down to Winterfell with.
Yeah.
Currently, like with his northern allies.
Yeah, he's got like maybe 2,000.
No, he's got he's set in the books. It's about 5,300, whereas the Boltons have more around 6,000. To 6,000, 7,000 men. But of course, they're dubious loyalties. I've read these books on my time.
All right, let's wrap
this up. Yeah, we're going to talk about Game of Thrones the entire time. So basically, the gaming industry is very interesting. People are not, at least I'm not excited for the new Pokemon game, which I really am like stoked for. Like I'm like ready to go for a new Pokemon game, but
like apparently we thought we'd catch them all at the end of every game, but then turns out there's more.
There's more.
Gotta catch them more.
The thing is that Sword and Shield really just was not that interesting or enjoyable. It was basically the same thing over and over again. I wasn't really into it, so this one just seems like more of the same, which is unfortunate. And of course, Microsoft is the gaming market.
Yeah,
it's the gaming market.
We'll probably revisit that. They'll make news again. All right, but anything you want to leave people on?
No. I'm gonna start my day bright and early with a cup of Big Nerd coffee, and I'm gonna be a nerd everywhere.
Me too. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you next